8th, 2022 Plan Commission meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Dolly.
Here.
Case.
Here.
Colhane.
Here.
Brink.
Here.
Dargis Johnson.
Here.
Aletsky.
Present.
Jace Hanson.
Here.
And Spire and Ford are absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Third item of the agenda is invitation for public comment participant submittal. If there's anything not on the agenda that someone wishes to speak about, there'll be time at the end of the meeting, and just please let Brandy know before then. And then fourth item on the agenda is the approval of the minute of the agenda. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Fifth item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 18th meeting. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. Sixth item on the agenda, 6A is our regular agenda, commission consideration of resolution 2022-38, an amendment to the zoning designation. Brandy, I'll let you take over from there.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. So this is a rezone request for the property at 185 4th Street Northeast, which is the Casey's General Store on Highway 81. And as you can see, it is currently zoned I-1 light industrial, and they are rezoning it to C3 highway commercial, which is the appropriate zoning for the retail establishment and convenience store. So with that, it brings it into conformance. It is along the highway, so it does make sense that it would be rezoned to C3. It is also upzoning it, so there are more restrictions to what can be there, but they are the appropriate uses to what should be adjacent to the highway. And it's consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. So with that, I'll open it up for any, well, I'll stand by for any questions. Jeff can open it up.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think you did a good job there. I will open up the public hearing. If there is anyone to speak in favor or against this item, please feel free to step up to the mic and say your name. I'm guessing, Brandy, that letters went out, and was there anyone opposed to it or anything?
Jana's got it.
We did have one call in on it. It was a general question about taxes.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, 6B, is commission consideration of resolution number 2022-35, the concept plan for Williston Edition. Brandy, take over, please.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. So this is a concept plan proposal for the Williston Addition, which is located west of Lake Compesca and 78th Street Southwest, or the old Highway 139. So, and north of Highway 212, and then the entire concept plan area includes everything south of 171st Street, which I believe, once it's brought into the city limits, will be 3rd. But it is south of the current 171st Street. So this concept plan involves 140.65 acres. They have a variety of zoning designations. As you can kind of see, I'll pull up a different map here. It's a large document, so it's gonna be slow, but here we go. Okay, very slow. So if you guys can, that's not gonna be as easy to see though. But I might have froze the whole thing up here. Okay. So now let's just flip it just to really throw it for a loop. So it's north is facing north as it would. Yeah. Okay. Now I think I clicked it one too many times, so, yeah. All right, we're gonna try to, if it goes counterclockwise, it should. There we go. Oh. Now it is upside down. Sorry, guys. I don't think we've had this long of a pause in a while during the presentation. All right, here we go. So here's Highway 212, here is 78th Street. And so along the highway, they're proposing C3 highway commercial, which is in the yellow. The pink areas are the CL Lake Commercial District. The bluish purple is designating the R3 multifamily residential zoning designation. And then the reddish orange is designating a PUD, which will be a rural residential district. This area for the rural residential will be in phase 5 and 6 of the development. So towards the last phase, there are six total phases with this development. The first phase you'll see here shown in the red hatched. That will be the first phasing, which is also what the subsequent annexation and zoning action on this agenda will take into consideration, as bringing that portion into the city limits. This was reviewed by the design review team, which is a group of city staff, and we had 2 meetings on this, and we have approved what is being proposed. We did have modifications that were revised, as far as a lot of it had to do with the street connectivity and making sure that we were getting through connections. As you can see, there will be 4 accesses onto 78th at the completion of this development. And then the park board also reviewed and approved what they are proposing at their August 30th meeting. And so in the first phase, this green area is not all parkland. It's this will be detention. And then there's this tree grove that they will be dedicating as parkland, which we pointed out to the park board, and they do feel that when they do the Compesca bike trail loop, that they can have kind of a unique experience through those trees and then still be able to retain them, just because it is a nice grove of trees. And then also with this first phase of the concept plan and what they propose to annex and zone, they will provide easements on the west side of 78th for that next phase of the Compesca bike trail loop. And so that works out great, as that will be proceeding with that. And so then just to get that up front, and then that park dedication will suffice for, and it meets the required acreage, which is 5% of the total acres being annexed and zoned or master planned, is how Title 14 reads. But then what that easement and this park area will suffice for phases 1 through 4 for their park dedication. And then when they get up to the phases 5 and 6, when they're doing the PUD with the rural residential, which will be quite similar, I would imagine, to what the CAX addition that we have seen recently have proposed, as just a unique subdivision with city services. And then we'll look at it again at that point, but again, that will be years down the road, unless they change up how their phasing goes. So, and if there are major changes to a concept plan, obviously it comes back to the Plan Commission for reapproval. So with all of that, I will stand by for any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So just, I'm reading the map correctly. All of the highway commercial along 212 will access from 8th Avenue Southwest.
Correct.
And what does the long-range land use plan say about the phasing of this development, the location of this type of development? Does the land use plan, does this proposed annexation use of property, is it consistent with what the land use plan has identified?
I believe that the land use plan just calls it rural.
Yeah, so it was beyond the scope of what the plan had said at that time. We weren't looking at doing anything because we didn't think anything was gonna happen when we adopted the plan.
Right.
Bert, from the utilities perspective, do you guys have any questions, issues? I know at one point in time, in discussion of the plan, there was talks about water capacity and those types of things on the west side of Old 139. And I'm just curious, from a water delivery standpoint, do we have any issues?
Sure. So we've ran our model, and the model shows that we can probably handle it. It's going to have to be looped fairly well, but we can probably handle it. But, you know, to be honest with you, just even on not only the water, the gas, and the electric, it's on the end of our system. You know, we don't go much further. That's the lowest part on our gas system. We are looking at doing pressure corrections for other things already, and it's good to know about this beforehand to address it. But we'll have our challenges, but we can make it work.
Okay, thank you.
So this first part that they want to bring into the city, that's going to be the commercial and the multifamily?
Yep.
Okay.
Brandy, when that first piece of Williston Addition was annexed in zone PUD, 6th Avenue wasn't built through there, but will it be built through there at this time? Because wasn't that a condition of it?
Yep. So we have agreements with that property owner that, you know, with orderly development, anytime that there is a street that needs to be extended through your property to be able to connect to the next property once they're ready to develop, that usually is required up front. Knowing that this was going to be a stub street to nowhere, and we didn't know when, because there was no guideline really in the comp plan of when this would be developed, we just have an agreement with that property owner that they could hold off, but they knew that it was required when this property developed. So it will be on them to construct.
Thank you for that.
In your review, and you address drainage and everything looks to be kosher as far as what the preliminary idea for retention, detention.
Yeah, and the concept plan we do very high level, and then once we get into each phase and they submit their preliminary plan, that's when we receive a lot of the drainage information. But we have been very sensitive of these areas along here and where this wetland is. Again, that'll be a later phase, but it is on the radar and we have notes on it to make sure that this is sufficiently holding the water that will be accumulated post-development, because there's already drainage issues in those areas.
I see also in the corner, in the southeast corner, where it used to be like a substation or something, they're already building it up with gravel. I seen that the other day. So is that going to drain off farther towards the west and towards the highway then, from that area?
So that specific property would need they need to accommodate for their detention. The grading permit would still be with the county, and so, but once it would become in city limits and they wanted to plat and develop it, they need to account for that. They also need to make sure that they have a wetland delineation and that they're not encroaching within a jurisdictional wetland, and then that they would also be accommodating for their required detention.
But isn't that area there, that first part that they want to bring in, is that wetland area there?
There, I believe it does show as some jurisdictional, but they need to work with the Corps to get a wetland delineation to make sure that they are getting either proper permits or just that they're not filling in a wetland that's jurisdictional. And so we would make sure, and I think even with the city would make sure that they had their proper permits from the Corps, knowing that there is a jurisdictional wetland there. Yeah. Because I can show you the information that we have, and then that's where we always, so you can see how it shows up as a wetland, and you can just tell by the aerial photography that it is wet, and you can also tell by vegetation change. But that is that's what the Corps has their experts, staff, come out and do a delineation on the property. So this is just the trigger to say, hey, you need to work with the Corps, and we won't provide permits until that has been confirmed and verified.
Brandy, who maintains, whatever street that is now, I got my map turned on myself. The Lake Road, basically, that comes off of 212, that one.
So currently, I believe it's the county.
So no curb and gutter, and we won't require that then because even when we annex it into our city? Or will we be changing the size of that road so we aren't dealing with another CAX situation?
See, so at least with this property, that there's multiple points of access. How these roads exist, I mean, South Lake Drive or 78th, that it would need to be, I mean, a whole reconstruct of, I mean, it would be a huge project. We're not requiring it at this time. It would end up being like a city assessment project or just a city project, but nothing that is being required at this time.
But right now it meets, because it's a state highway with the ditches and stuff, it meets all of that.
It's not a state highway. The state gave the east half to the city and the west half is the counties.
Oh, never mind.
But yeah, honestly, I can't say
I don't know how
if
it's
it's county
maintained.
or
I don't know how
city.
it's maintained right now.
Councilman Tupper
I
has
think
our
it is
answer.
believe everything north of South Lake Drive where old 139 goes north is done by the city.
Okay.
Everything in that corner is county road yet, so everything coming off of 212 up to that corner, that goes off to Sandy Shores to the west, a certain amount, I can't remember how long, is county property yet, so.
Right, because I thought when they changed the speed limit, that was the
Yep.
county had to act on that.
And the city maintains the rest of the lake.
Okay.
I do think, though, since we're talking about roads, so the proposed 84th Street on the west, as we start putting the development agreements together, I'm going to assume that there will be some discussion on who's responsible for the construction of that road. And then the bigger issue for me is on 3rd Avenue Northwest, which is currently a township or a county road. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. My recommendation is as that phase comes in, and the annexation comes in, that we annex everything, the entire right-of-way,
Yep.
both all the way to the north side of that, so that we don't have the issues of who's responsible for maintaining what.
Yes, and that has been practice. Annexation, we always bring the entire right-of-way in when we are dealing with that county-city line. Just because it makes it clean.
Chair, shifting gears just a little bit, does the bike trail easement, does that come at one time, or does that come as it's phased in?
We're gonna have, it will be just in one easement the entire way. And so that won't be annexed at this time, but it still can be constructed on if they give an easement. And then it will end up being phased in, like, into city limits, but we'll still be able to utilize it for
It's
the
not gonna
path.
hold up the billing or expanding the bike trail?
No.
The phases won't themselves, okay.
Yep,
They'll just have to go to the county and get a permit from the county for the building of the bike trail.
the county requires permits?
Just like we had
I'm
talked.
kidding.
Well, not to beat a dead horse, but I'm going to still beat the dead horse because we're going to have the same issue we had at CAX that we're dealing with at CAX. We're taking a street that's a county street and putting a lot of city traffic on it. And 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, somebody's going to be saying, well, why didn't they just talk about that when they annexed this in? So I'm just kind of stuck there. When that developer brings this in, is he or is he not going to be responsible for his half of that street as it gets worn out, I guess for lack of a better word? So is that not part of the development plan here as it should have been with CAX?
And so that would more so if it was a large reconstruct project, because the city it's being maintained currently. And so by the city to that point, up to South Lake Drive, no, north. And so I would imagine that that would end up being a large assessment project if it were brought up, if it was brought to a different standard. But no. To your
Brady,
question, I believe.
it really wouldn't surprise me none if the city is maintaining also that county portion of it. It would only make sense that we are at this time, well, especially when it comes to plowing, maybe not the maintenance of the actual asphalt road itself, but.
But if we take the commercial property on the south side and that gets annexed into the city, the west half of 139 will belong to the city. It won't be county anymore.
Right. And so Rhonda, are you asking if it, like, if the county brings it up to standard?
The
Do we
county
have
won't-
to,
the county
do we have
won't.
to attach some type of,
The county won't.
no, when we annex it in though, I mean, it's no different than 14th, as, you know what I'm saying? We don't have the other half of 14th done up there north.
I think that's probably an annexation question from a concept plan standpoint. I think we're just more looking at whether or not are the roads in the right place, are the uses the right thing. I think we can have the question on annexation and staging at that point in time, but I think what's in front of us, and we probably maybe will even get to that at some point in time, but to me, it's just,
Next.
does the picture look good? Does it meet everything? Are the roads in the right place?
I understand that, but I think it's only fair to the developer to know what we're expecting once we annex it in. We can't unannex it in if he's not, you know what I'm saying? So if he's going into this knowing that, you know, at some point, we're gonna say, okay, as you're developing that whole strip of land, we kind of expect you to,
Well,
improve that
everything on 84th is a collector, and everything on 139 is a minor arterial or something. I don't know how we classify that. And within our design standards, I think the design standards to stipulate who's responsible for paying their pro rata share of the development of that road. Am I incorrect on that?
So the 78th or Old Highway 139 is a collector, a major collector. And so, and it has been, I mean, it's been existing a lot. I mean, everything around the lake basically was developed prior to it being annexed within city limits. So it was not, that was not contemplated or a concern when the design review team did review this, because it ends up being, I mean, it would be a major reconstruct of the entire collector system around the lake. Or it could be segmented.
But what I'm saying is that normally, if this was to happen, and if 139 was ever going to be increased within the development agreement, which is 3 or 4 steps down the process from here, that would be the time to stipulate who's responsible for paying their pro rata share.
And when this is platted, we can contemplate that further as far as the development agreement goes.
Right. But we aren't involved with that anymore. I mean, that's a preliminary plan, right? We're just here, this is our bite at the apple, the planning commission, correct?
Right, but we don't get into the details. You guys still see the plat with the
Right.
development agreement. And then that's when we get into the details of who's paying for what, what's required as far as infrastructure
Right.
improvement. This is just overall plan, and I think it's good discussion, and it's something that when staff is, design review team is reviewing that prelim plan, we'll definitely consider that. And then you guys will still have another look at it when it comes in for platting.
One,
What you're saying, Todd, I'm just saying, so if I don't know if Wilsons are here, that they're hearing this and saying, you know, maybe I should jerk this off because I'm not willing to, down the road, have to assume that road any more than if I go up and buy the quarter up northeast on 14th and say, maybe I don't want to do that because I don't want to annex it in. Once we annex it into the city, it's in. Maybe I'm just throwing it out there for the owner to, you know, either get cold feet or say, yeah, I'm cool with that. So that's
quick question.
Brandy, Brandy, when we did the first Williston edition, and you might not know this off the top of your head, do you know, did we require them to do anything to that stretch of what's labeled 139th?
I do not believe so.
And I don't believe we did either. My opinion is in that State Highway 139, as it's labeled, is an existing road that's been constructed. It's not a half street. It might not be up to our current city standards, but if we were to ask this developer to redo their half and curb and gutter their half, the other side would not have it. And to me, it doesn't make sense to require that at all, whether at the concept plan or plating.
I'm
That's
not
my
saying it would
opinion.
have to be curb and guttered. I'm just saying that if it does need to be, I mean, it is, I mean, as it gets destroyed, you know what I'm, more heavily traveled is all I'm just throwing it out there, guys.
I would treat this the same way as I would treat Willow Lake, or Willow Creek Drive. I mean, as development further north of Willow Creek gets added onto, I'm not making J&J up north going in and adding, an additional developer's costs. I think this is a fully developed road. It's there, its functionality is there to collect the traffic. I think it's going to be there. More than likely, this would be, if this was ever have to be done, it would be an urban systems project, more than likely that the city would use to pay for that. I think the bigger concerns for the Willistons and everyone else is that they understand that 84th Street and 3rd Avenue Northwest are going to be minor collectors, and that they're responsible for that. Who owns the property to the west of the development?
Let me check.
I guess the question, because has anyone reached out to them so that they understanding what's being proposed, so that they see that they're going to be on the hook for half of a road when their property starts to develop?
Well, and we can't assess
I know you can't assess,
until
but
it's
are they
in
aware?
the county. They received notification.
Okay.
I don't know if you talked to them at all, Jana. No. Danielle Hughes. So,
Is the public hearing open?
I will open the public hearing. Please state your name for the record.
Push it. Oh. So I'm Scott Campbell. I own I'm an adjacent landowner. I'm in just north of where her pointer is there. And I'm sorry, I just have some questions. I see some neighbors here too, and maybe I'll ask some, we'll answer some common questions. But number one, so I'm not familiar with this stuff. Is the green the stuff you're designating park? So that'll never be sold or developed, or?
Yeah.
yeah, so that green area, that is dedicated for park. And so that would be developed by the city into a park, if anything. But like I said, I think they're talking about doing a trail through there. This area is a detention pond, which will be privately maintained. But that'll be for their stormwater detention. So it won't be developed.
Okay. So you'd talked about that old, when you did about that old substation down there. The only comment I'll say, we know we've talked about the road and whose road it is, but north, that driveway into that, where they're building that up, I don't know if they took the old one out or redid it or what, but there's no culvert, and that's backing water up to the north when it gets wet. It's holding a lot of water in the ditch. So that should have a culvert in there. So I guess my other question is, I'm not familiar with all these. So the yellow commercial, that makes sense to me as commercial. The multifamily, the blue, and then the lake commercial, could someone just explain to me what do I should expect for buildings in those? Or?
From a multiple family, you have a wide variety. It could be anything from single family homes to condos to twin homes to 40, 60 unit apartments. I mean, that's what an R3 is, a very broad residential zone.
Well, and it's multi-family. So it's when you have, otherwise if you truly wanted to do single family, we would want to see that rezoned. And so that you're meeting minimum lot size and density. So with this being a new development, if somebody truly wanted to do single family, we want to see that rezoned.
So we're talking about the blue stuff right now, right?
Blue stuff.
Yep.
So what's the purple, then lake commercial?
Lake commercial is kind of a light commercial district that was developed after about 6 months of committee meetings and stuff like that. It's pretty light. I don't know how else to describe it. It's sort of.
For
some
more
office
commercial
spaces.
uses that would support lake lifestyles and recreational opportunities, I think is
But
how.
isn't the point lake commercial?
Correct.
Correct.
Like Stony Point is, and then there's one other lot that I'm aware of, I think, is that Dolly lot, right?
Oh, yeah, out there
Roger, yeah.
by the.
So we really haven't seen it used much except for Stony Point.
Okay.
Restaurants,
There's-
hotels, I think,
There's-
hotels.
There's design standards, I mean, there's gonna be, there's green requirements.
Yes.
It's not gonna look like Willow Creek Drive
Or 212.
or 212. It would be more, you could see a restaurant in there, you could see a bar tavern in there, you could see commercial storage type facilities in there. But the way they're built and the way they look, they can only use so much of their percentage of their lot.
Yeah,
There has to
half,
be so much- there has to be
50%.
so much grass, so I don't think you're gonna see McDonald's popping out there.
The idea was to try to maintain sort of the aesthetic and also sort of community nature of the lake. The way.
Okay. So I appreciate your time, and that answers my questions, and appreciate it. And I know Liam has been waiting for a long time to see what I had to say, right?
I'm not used to speaking in these things, but I'm Vicki Behrens, and we happen to own the property that's right to the east side of this development. It's right towards the bottom with a big horse barn there. We have egg there, and it's not going to change. I have been living through already 2 years of developing that land, and not all these big trucks use 212. They go down South Lake Drive, and those roads need a lot of attention. There's hardly any shoulder on some of those roads, and another thing is the noise. I've kind of had to live through noise, not so much this summer, but the summer before, it was trucks banging, going back and forth. They start very early in the morning. Are there any regulations against when these people are supposed to start? This is going to go on forever. In that barn, I ride horse in that barn. And we hay that ground. And, right now, it has gotten so busy out there, compared to 10, 15 years ago when we bought this, that I actually, a couple years ago, got picked up on my horse with a policeman. Because some kids were driving around the lake with real noisy, these little crotch rockets, and a policeman pulled me over. Can you imagine a horse getting pulled over with lights? So, my concern is what is this going to do to our area? And in that corner, there was a slough right by 212, and they covered it up. And then the water backed up, and no culvert. I mean, I've lived through this already. So I'm not happy, and I'm just going to state this. I'm not happy. What's going to happen? How long is this going to take? And how many changes? I mean, I lived through one development where they make changes, and all of a sudden the changes make changes. I don't know. There needs to be really a lot of things written down. That's all I can say right now. I just don't know what it's going to do to my horses and my horseback riding. I mean, there's going to be manure thrown out there right in front of the development. It's not going to change for me. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, her property is located in the county, correct?
Yep.
And for her information, what we're doing today is talking about the conceptual design of their proposed, And yes, it could change over time, depending on economics and what have you, over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long it takes to develop. But any changes to conceptually what they're talking about today would necessitate bringing that back before whoever's sitting on this board and the city council to address that. So there will be opportunities, if there are changes down the road, for the neighborhood to come and make comment.
Just so we're alerted to that, because there's a lot of neighbors that didn't even know about this meeting.
So we notify, and it's all of the adjoining property owners within 250 feet of the entire concept plan area. So to wherever that boundary extends is who receives letters.
There's a lot of people affected by this, not just 250 feet radius.
Hi. Hey, my name is Randy Parkin, and I bought a lot almost across from her barn. And I bought the lot because it was beautiful around there. Not expecting this to happen. So I'm totally against. So when is the meeting that we can say we're totally against? I thought it was this one.
It is.
Would you lay out the steps from concept plan to preliminary plan to plat to rezoning, all that sort of stuff?
Yes, so this is the concept plan phase where this is only approved by the plan commission. And then to subdivide or further develop this property, then as far as their plan, the plan side goes, then they do a preliminary plan, and that is just administratively approved by staff. And then they do a plat, and that comes forward to the plan commission and city council. There's no public hearing involved though, so then there's not notice given. But then when they do like the annexation and zoning, which will be the next action item, that has a public hearing at the plan commission, and then it has 2 readings at city council. So from this action, and then this will be the final action for the concept plan. But then the annexation and zoning, there is the opportunity to have another public hearing at city council.
Okay, so that's not going to happen today?
So Randy,
Public hearing will happen today.
where we're at, Randy, is the concept. Do we agree with the concept how it's generally laid out?
Okay.
That's the first vote, that's gonna happen, and that's just the planning commission.
Okay,
Then the next thing on the agenda is there's going to be a public hearing on first edition annexation and zoning, which would be that yellow area, the commercial area of the map. You've already said you're against it, so you can come back in about 5 minutes, you can say you're against it again at that. Then this board,
okay, so the next meeting
so this
is
board,
today.
this board, I mean, in about 5 minutes, we're gonna be talking about that.
Okay.
Next agenda item.
This board
Okay.
will then say yay or nay as a recommendation to the city
Oh,
council.
you guys will.
And then the city council will have a scheduled first reading and a public hearing and the like, however that works. And so you'll have another chance.
Okay, what
go-
day is that?
And that was included on the letters that were sent
Yeah,
out.
I seen that.
And so, and then it'll be not the September 9th, it'll be the first meeting in October.
Yeah, and I was wondering, I'm going to be gone then, so when can I state my against?
You
Policy.
can write a letter, or, yeah, just an email or a letter, just get a hold of us, and then we can document your
Okay,
your
all right,
response.
thank you.
And be able to
Okay.
relay that.
Thank
So,
you.
yep, thank you.
Chair, can I just bring, Brandy, at what point don't they have to post notification?
Yes.
At what point is that? So a lot of these people, I understand their concern because they don't live within that 250 feet. Because it's a big, broad area out there. So at what point do they actually post it so these people are notified?
So we have We'll post it in the paper 10 days, at least 10 days before the public hearing. So you can look for it there. Otherwise, just on the city website too, you'll see when you go to October 3rd will be the meeting that it will be on. I think. Because that's 19. Yeah, so October 3rd will be where the second hearing takes place. So the agenda will be posted on the city website too, so you can follow along and you can actually subscribe to get notification when these meetings are taking place as well. And now there I'm going to stumble on how to exactly do that.
It's pretty simple. That's what I guess my point was trying to get at is there is an easy way, and that's just subscribe to notifications. So you can subscribe to notifications for Plan Commission or City Council meetings or Board of Adjustments or Library Board meeting or any of those, so.
Yep. And so then that's where, thank you, Randy. And I have it here where we'll just step it back for a second. So the main website, Watertown, South Dakota, or sd.us, agendas, home, subscribe.
Hey, Brandy, don't they also have to put like a notice or something on the property so when people are driving by so they know that what's going to happen to or not?
Only when they're doing a conditional use. So, but October 3rd will be when the second reading of the annexation and zoning will take place. That'll be the public hearing. The city council meeting is at 5:30 in this same room.
Are there any other comments from the public?
Excuse me. Hi, I'm John Strandell, 1017 South Lake Drive. This is a little confusing. I know you're talking about closing this and having another meeting to follow.
But it's just the next agenda item. The next agenda item on there is the annexation of phase one.
This part here? Yeah, okay. I thought what we were really looking at today was the annexation of the land surrounding the storage units along the west side of the road there. You had it marked out in red.
Yeah, right here.
So that's one that we're actually voting on today, and is my understanding.
We're voting on the general plan.
Okay.
Do we like this as a plan?
Okay.
That's step one.
Okay.
Yes or no?
Okay.
That's the first vote, and then
right.
there's a second
Yeah.
vote, which is the next agenda item, which is the actual
Yeah.
annexation.
Okay.
Do we bring it into the city?
right.
The
Okay.
small part of that plan.
All right. Yep.
And then the rest of it's gonna get brought in,
All right.
assuming that.
Okay. My understanding that this guy here, I'm showing it, is voting on it today, but it's a preliminary plat. Is that right? I mean, this
Concept plan.
it's a concept. Well,
Concept.
We got, there's a whole
this
bunch
is
of
this is
jargon.
something that's on paper, but it's not locked in stone.
Well, yes, yes, and no.
Okay.
I mean,
If I can answer that. So the preliminary plan comes forward, that has more detail, but it needs to follow this plan. And then when it's locked in stone is when it's platted. And that comes forward to Plan Commission again. And then that's when we figure out the infrastructure requirements. But that's when it becomes a platted lot that's able to be developed. But it needs to follow what's approved.
Okay,
here.
yeah, and there could potentially be numerous changes in this down the road, from what I understand.
there could be a change to the concept plan, which would necessitate it to come
Yeah.
back to this
Okay.
body
All right.
again.
All right.
So
So-
say for example, we got yellow, blue, and purple and red.
Yeah.
And let's say 5 years down the road, this purple isn't working for them, and they
Yeah.
decide they want to make it blue.
Okay.
Then it's going to come back, and we don't talk about
I
it.
think 5 years down the road, it sounds to me like that's still gonna be a cornfield, but I'm not sure about that. Anyway, today, my interest is in what's going on the next item agenda, I guess, so I don't know if if I'm speaking up too soon, so maybe I should go sit down and wait, huh?
You could make your comments now, and then we don't have
Well,
to step up the next time if you want. That's up to you, Mr. Chair.
Because they are very much related.
They're
sorry?
very much
They are
related.
very much related.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, I just want to speak in favor of this being pulled into the city. these are kind of critical developments. I know that you're talking about curb and gutter along the 78th Street. There's not curb and gutter around half of Lake Kapeska, first of all. And it's a busy road, but it's been a busy road for many, many years. I know there's a lot of people might be disappointed. I might be disappointed in what, my views being affected. That's part of development. Look around Watertown. There's a lot of views being affected in this town right now. I mean, they're building in places that nobody would have ever thought that they were going to build, especially looking at a place called Stony Point, which we thought was sacred ground when I was a kid growing up in this town. No, it's not sacred ground anymore, but it's there. So anyway, I'm in favor of moving this along as an annexation into the city and bringing in it's multifamily development right now. I know there's some park involved in this particular item agenda. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Redlin. I live to the north, the first farm right across from the slough.
Is that in this area?
To the north?
Yep.
And I'm not in favor of it at all. My biggest concern is when construction's going on, it's south wind, and I'm right across the road. And like I said, I'm just not in favor of any of it at all. I don't mind probably the commercial along the highway. They've got the storage sheds along the lake there as well. But I just want to voice my opinion that I'm not for it. Thank you.
Say another thing. Again, Randy Parkin. Where's that road? That goes. Let's see. That road right there.
Okay. So he's talking this road right here.
That road, that goes right, will shine right into Dave Schmidt's and Ann Schmidt's house as they turn. I live right next to it. I'm gonna get the same thing. Why didn't they move it to where there was already a road down further? Why didn't they come in there?
Right here.
There will be a road right there as well. That PUD that's already listed where the cursor is,
This
Oh,
one
right
here.
here.
That way you got all their trees, take out hardly nothing. And that would help.
The reason for that location is just because it is in the quarter section line where a minor arterial would go. This would push it further to the north. And then just for development, to keep it in conformance with our major street plan of having it run on that quarter line.
So you're saying this road here is gonna go through those buildings then, those new storage buildings? They're gonna tear those down already?
no, there's when we approved that PUD, we put in the development agreement that their parking lot or driveway would have to be constructed as a road once the road continued west.
Okay, it shows it going, okay. All right, thanks.
Anyone else to speak on this item? I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second from the board.
One last time, Brandy, conceptually, from a preliminary review, the DIRT committee has said that it would generally comport with the land use plan, and not so much the land use plan, but the design standards as far as road layout and everything.
Yes. And transitional zoning.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the concept plan as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. And I'll just say, you know, I understand the concerns of living next to county. I also live on a property that is immediately adjacent to county. And that property was recently sold to a developer, and I love looking out and seeing my bean field, but truthfully, it's not my bean field. You know, it's someone else's, and you know, it's you know, for that reason, I think, you know, I support the concept plan.
I'm going to say that I was just going to echo your comments, Mr. Chair. I live along 14th Avenue, and when J&J decided they were going to build north of 14th Avenue, north of the water tower, I still don't like the winters because they tore out the shelter belts, and now I get 3 foot of snow across my driveway that never was there. But it's changed, it's progress, and so I will be supporting this.
Okay, now I got a question. We're approving it as commercial and everything here, right? Where
As a concept.
where it's at, that's a concept? Okay, thanks.
Any other discussions from the board? We have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call vote, please, Brandy?
Yes. Dolly.
Yes.
Brink.
Yes.
Jargett Johnson.
Yes.
Valetsky.
Yes.
Cohen.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Case.
Yes.
Motion approved. Item C on the agenda is Resolution 2022-36, an annexation, and item 2022-37, the zoning. This is the same property. This is the phase 1 of that property. Right now, we're asking to annex it in and zone it all R1 at this time. Is that correct, Brandy?
Yes, that is correct. And so good question. So I'm going to do the presentation for the annexation and zoning. The action items will be separate. So you guys will act on the annexation and then the zoning. But they are, so the concept plan showed this as having the variation of the zoning designation as C3, R3, and that's it for this first phase. The reason why they're bringing it in as R1 is because it will be platted as one lot originally. It will be subdivided further and rezoned to meet the subdivision regulations. But when a property is annexed, we want it to be platted as one lot, and if it's under 35 acres, typically, you know, we've seen these as come in as ag, as kind of a placeholder district. This is just under 35 acres, so it doesn't meet that minimum requirement. So we're doing R1 single family as the placeholder, and then because we want it to be a platted city lot, and then it'll have before development can happen, and I made that clear in that staff report, and it will be as far as when it's recorded as the plat, that this will need to be subdivided to meet the concept plan prior to development happening. Yep. Because, and you know, at the worst case scenario, they're going to be able to build one single family home on this lot if it doesn't get re-subdivided.
Thank you. And this is what we've done in the past. I mean, it's hard to break it out into different lines right now when there isn't a plat to go with it, because if all of a sudden what's shown on here as that first commercial lot, if whoever comes and wants to buy 50 feet farther north or something, then all of a sudden we've got a lot that's got mixed zoning. So we like to wait until that's platted. So thank you for that explanation.
Yep. And good question, because obviously we want it to conform to the concept plan that we just approved.
And we do generally bring it in a lower designation, like you said. Right now, if they don't come back and rezone it, this has one buildable right as one single family home, you know, not the other way around where it's a whole thing of commercial. So thank you for that. I will open the public hearing. There is a public hearing on the annexation and zoning for this.
Yeah, Bert again with utilities. Just to make sure everybody is aware of that, this is in the Sioux Rural Water Territory. So this 33 acres or whatever this exact amount is will be subject to that. Being rezoned as R1, it'll be $8,900. So we'll have to go through that whole process. Developer has to pay 100% of those costs. Yep.
Yes, and thank you for that. And then that's where the developer works with utilities on that aspect, so, which they've been made aware of that.
Any other comments from the public? I know we just talked about it in the last item too, but. All right, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll clarify, the first motion is the annexation, so I'll ask for a motion in a second on the annexation.
I'll make a motion to approve the annexation.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote again.
All right. Dargis Johnson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Kays.
Yes.
Culhane.
Yes.
Dolly.
Yes.
Brink.
Yes.
Aletsky.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next is the zoning of R1. I'd ask for a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion with the stipulation as identified in the staff report that they have to comport with the
Approved concept plan
approved concept plan.
Second.
upon development.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote again.
Kays.
Aye.
Hanson.
Aye.
Aletsky.
Yes.
Dolly.
Yes.
Brink.
Yes.
Dargis Johnson.
Yes.
Culhane.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Item 6D on the agenda is commission consideration of resolution 2022-39, adopting the boundaries for a TIF, a tax increment district. Brandy, will you take over, please?
Yes, thank you, Jeff. So if you recall, this TIF 19 is the area over along Willow Creek Drive on the east side of town. This was approved in April of this year. The reason why it's before you again today is because when it was submitted to the Department of Revenue, the legal description was found to be incorrect. And so that was submitted by the developers, engineer, surveyor, whatnot. And so, and it is a very lengthy legal description. So appreciate that being caught, but then just with that, because it technically changes the boundary map, that, and then the TIF plan that is approved by Plan Commission and City Council, we're bringing it back forward. Nothing has changed as far as the financing go or the purpose of the district. It's still for economic development. And TIF 5 also was incorporated. Yeah, so TIF 5 was a prior TIF for the construction of Willow Creek Drive. Nothing's changing with that. TIF 19 is still going to make sure that TIF 5 is paid back, and then it'll start collecting as its own financing district. The only thing that's changing is the legal description.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate that. I know it's just a clerical thing, but I love being above board and coming before when we do changes like that. So I will open the public hearing if there is anyone to speak on this item. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion in a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Does anyone have any further discussions on this TIF? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seventh item on the agenda is open public comment. Brandy, did we receive any?
No.
Item 8 is new business. Do we have any?
No, not that I have.
Doesn't look like we have any on this side. Item 9 is old business. Any old business?
Nope.
Doesn't look like we have any on over here. Item 10 is executive session. Do we have to go into that?
Nope.
Okay. Item 11 is adjournment. I will adjourn us. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you all.